What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Tuesday, September 15th, 2020. I am your host, Monte Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. You can follow me on social media on Twitter, Monte JP231, on Facebook, Monte Perez, and on Instagram, Monte Perez 2. And please, guys, go to YouTube. It's real easy. Sign up, subscribe for free to Nuts and Bolts Sports. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday. We also do a show on Sunday. This show is a little different. It's going to be about an hour. It is Taco Tuesday. That is going to be our theme every Tuesday. We are going to have a little cartoon character here. And the reason why we do this is because someone once told me that you will never see someone in a restaurant angry eating a taco. Tacos always make you feel good. That's what we're going to try to do for this hour. In about 20 minutes, Levi Charteroff is going to join us to talk fantasy football and the Buffalo Bills. And then George Lopez will join us as well to talk about the LA Rams, who had a tremendous win at home over the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to break down the NFC. I am, and our good buddy, let's bring him on right now, Rico. Show me the money, Graziano. It's going to break down the AFC. Rico, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. But you know what? I'm not the guy who told you about people being happy eating tacos, because I don't look at other people when I'm in the restaurant. I just eat myself and look down.
That's it. Listen, Sports with Monty twice a week and with Rico. We're going to have George joining us. Again, this show's a little different than we do on Sunday. Listen, people, you're getting compliments already. What is going on? I got to tell you, Rico, at night, you look totally different than early Sunday morning.
Well, I've been up for almost 4 hours now.
Yeah, you literally.
In the morning, I got about a 5-minute window before I wake up.
All right, Rico, like I said, we're going to break down every game in about 20, 25 minutes. Your good friend, Levi, is going to come on, talk Buffalo Bills and your fantasy football. The other George Lopez, we just call him George Lopez now. He's going to join us and talk Rams. I'm sure he's going to talk trash to you because you picked the Dallas Cowboys to beat the Los Angeles Rams. But I do give you credit. You had 12 winning weeks last year, 3 losing weeks, 1 tie. You went 2-1 this week, so you have a winning week. So congratulations to that.
Baby.
1-0. But let's get to the 3 big questions. We're going to start each show with 3 big questions for Rico Graziano. So the first one, little disturbing last Sunday after the show. My father came up to me and said, hey, how much money does Rico make on gambling? Does he make like $50,000, $60,000 a year? Now, my first thought was, I thought of the Godfather movie where Michael is at dinner with Sollozzo. And I didn't think of the Godfather movie because you're underground and, the degenerates that you know in the underground gambling industry. So I don't want to – what I thought was –
the industry. I like it. I'm part of the industry.
So I thought of the Godfather movie, and this scene in particular says to Sollozzo, he goes, what I want is to guarantee my father's safety. And Sollozzo says – right here, he goes, what guarantees, Mike? I'm the hunted one. You think too highly of me. I'm not that clever. And I'm thinking to myself, Rico's not that clever where he's going to win $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And secondly, your wife, your family would not let you spend that money, correct?
No, she would literally kill me. I love your father again more than anything, and I wish that I could say yes to that. But doing the math, from what I bet, if the number of what I was betting could be moved up, like instead of betting $100 a game, let's say I was betting $5,000 a game, it would be probably $75,000 a year.
So you're saying if you had the budget that your wife will let you to have, you could be a professional gambler?
Oh, if I had the budget my wife let me have, I'd be betting $5 a week for all the games. So this is my secret. You know, if there's a secret stash, then there's the secret stash, then there's the betting stash.
All right, Rico. So that's the first part of our big three questions. The second one, I want to get your take on this because Bruce Arians of the Tampa Bay Bucks came out after the game and totally ripped Tom Brady. And what I didn't like about this, Rico, he said, and I quote, in practice, he looked like the Brady that we all know and love. He goes, there was not one thing that New Orleans did that we didn't see on film that we didn't expect, and he just didn't get it done. He needs to play better. He's calling out this superstar after week one. How does that fly with you?
Well, I feel like Belichick used to do that to him, but behind closed doors, because Belichick's not the type of guy who would do that, to the press. You have to squeeze him to get anything out of Belichick. So I think what he did was, I'm sure it's Tom Brady. He probably got cleared by Tom Brady to do that or say something like that. You don't just go stepping on somebody's toes because you feel like it. This isn't the Jets. This is Tampa Bay.
Wait, Rico. You're saying that there's no way Bruce Arians went to Tom Brady and said, "I'm going to rip you."
Well, I could see him saying, "I'm going to go to the press and be a little critical of you," and then
really?
go. I could probably see Bruce Arians seems like a straight shooter. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that does stuff like that behind somebody's back. And you know what? Maybe Tom Brady works better with a little. We'll see. Yeah, my thing is watching him scramble. He's not used to scrambling. He's used to sitting in the pocket. We saw with the Giants in the Super Bowl what they did the other day. It happened to him again. New Orleans Saints were rushing him up the middle, around. They made him move. He was uncomfortable. It's really more about his offensive line than anything else, than his performance.
Well, listen, they had 1 month to perform, 1 month together practicing, and then they went against arguably one of the best teams in the NFC, right? So that was a one strike against them. But listen, they're going to play the Carolina Panthers this week, and all is going to be right. They're going to put Carolina's going to struggle this year. They gave up 30-something points to the Raiders. So imagine what they're going to give up to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Everything's going to be right. But I just thought it was a little interesting. Maybe Tom Brady, this is what he needs. Maybe because he hasn't been coddled in New England, but he's used to this. So people are making a big deal. I'm just shocked that it came after game one.
Well, it was a little surprising after game one. But, I mean, he said that I thought he was saying that he looked like Tom Brady in practice, in the sense of, like, practice he was very lax, and then on the field he was very lax. But also another thing to consider is Tom Brady got like Bill Belichick was his father. So he's had him in check for years. Now Tom Brady comes out, he's this persona of the guy that we figured was under the curtain is now out, and maybe Tom Brady's better as a quiet, stays focused type of quarterback instead of, on their Tuesday day off doing commercials, running around, Instagramming.
Yeah, no, listen, there's a big difference in New England where it's all business from the start of training camp to the end of the season, where a lot of teams, they do give you they're not as disciplined, they're not as focused. So, that's a great point. And Peter's saying Rico is no coffee cake when it comes to betting from a Bronx tale.
That's I'm glad that you picked that up. I'm impressed, Monte.
Listen. I'm like Rain Man when it comes to 80s and 90s movies. My friend Andrea always tries to stump me. She'll send a picture of a movie, and I get it like that because I'm the master of useless talent. Okay, so now the third final question, Rico. So we all love the show Family Guy, right? And there's a scene in Family Guy where Stewie goes to the Mets opening game, right? And the announcer again, and here's the first pitch, boom, a home run, the season's over, right? That's what he's saying about the Mets' first pitch, game one. I'm not lying to you when I tell you this. My brother Peter, our setup is crazy at the house, right? I have my computer for one game, we have the big screen on another, and then on Pete's tablet, he puts on another game. He's watching the Jets. After 2 possessions, 5 minutes in, it was like Stewie going to the first game, opening day of Mets, the first pitch, it's a home run, it's over. My brother says, it's over, I'm done. And my response was, what took you so long? I didn't even waste 5 minutes. Are they the worst team in the NFL?
I don't know about the worst team, but they have the worst coach. Just watching them, They look so exactly right. That says it all right there. That gift. It, it's it's. I feel bad. I really feel bad. I feel worse for Jet fans than I do for Cleveland Brown fans. And I'm talking Cleveland Brown of 4 years ago, not the new Cleveland Brown, the flopping Cleveland Brown. I'm talking about Cleveland Browns from back when we knew they weren't going to win. Like the Jets, because they're in New York, have so much hope. But you know what? They're like the new Knicks. They're the Knicks. They're the Knicks of football.
It's really sad, Rico, because, like I said, he literally watched it for 5 minutes, and that's all I
Yep.
thought about. I just thought about Stewie, going to the first game of the Mets, the first pitch, up, season's over. He
That's it.
he
Lost
literally
everyone.
he wasted 5 minutes, and I said, "You wasted your time." I said, "You wasted your time," because look, the Jets are going to be awful. I said this when they hired Gase, terrible hire. But let's get right to it, Rico. Let's break down the AFC and the NFC and the NFL. You start with your two. How we're going to do this for people keeping score at home. Rico's going to do two AFC games, and then I'll do two NFC games. So go ahead.
All right, we'll start off with since you said the Raiders. Raiders versus the Panthers. Raiders won 34-30. This game was not as close as what it sounds like. The Raiders seem to have given up in the fourth quarter and let up 15 points. On the Christian McCaffrey had 98 yards with 2 TDs. So for your fantasy guys, he still did what you needed to do. But the Panthers look like a team that's going to be on the under of the over/under from Vegas of wins at 5.5. The next game is the
Wait,
Browns.
let me comment on that for a second
All
because
right, go ahead.
listen, people got on Christian McCaffrey, and this is so funny. I say this all the time. When LeBron James has a bad game, he scores 21, grabs 7 rebounds, has 5 assists, 1 steal. That's a bad game for LeBron James. Those are Hall of Fame numbers for anybody else if they
Yeah.
average that, right? So Christian McCaffrey, 25 carries, 93 yards, 2 TDs. Those are Hall of Fame numbers. Those are Hall of Fame, and he had a bad game. But it came down to this game, and this is what really annoys me. Matt Rule was a very good offensive coach at Baylor. He's considered a very good offensive coach. It's 4th and 1, and you run a dive with your fullback. You don't even play action with Bridgewater, who's a very smart quarterback, or if you're afraid they're going to key on McCaffrey, maybe do a sweep, have McCaffrey do a little option, maybe throw it. I mean, you're supposed to be a very good offensive coordinator, and if that play comes into the huddle and I'm Bridgewater, I audible and I get the ball to Christian McCaffrey some way, somehow. Am I wrong there for criticizing the rookie coach, Matt Rule?
Well, if it works, he's a genius. But at the end of the day, you give your money, you give the ball to the money, and the money on that team is Christian McCaffrey. Even if they know, I mean, everybody knows he's getting the ball. 75% of the time doesn't mean that he doesn't get the ball because they know.
But Rico, find a creative way to do it, right?
Yeah, I think a sweep and he would have cut in. There was a million. You're right, a million.
He makes people miss all the time.
Yes, he's great. He's great at it, and he's deserving of the #1 overall pick in fantasy football. Derek Carr didn't have a bad game himself in that game either.
No, did not. All right, go to the next one.
All right, we had the Colts who should have won this game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 20-27. The Jags, everybody thought they'd lose every game this year. They are the first team that I've seen in a long time that you could say is the no-name team. I honestly don't know one player on this team. Matter of fact, yeah. What's it?
Gardner Minshew. Rico. Gardner Minshew. Listen to this.
That's
Listen to this. Gardner Minshew. 19 of 20, right? He looks like White from dodgeball, right? But listen to this. 19 of 20, 3 touchdown passes. He's the first quarterback in NFL history to complete 95% of his passes and have 3 touchdowns. First quarterback in NFL history. Look, he looks like White Goodman from dodgeball. But Rico, this is the same old story for the LA Chargers, now gone to the Indianapolis Colts. Phillips Rivers threw the ball 40 times, 2 bad interceptions.
Well, 363 yards in a losing effort. I mean, that sounds exactly like Philip Rivers. The reason why he drives me crazy as a fantasy player and as a player in general. You could throw 500. What do they say? If you score 50 points in basketball and your team loses, you lost.
Exactly. No, it's just
400 yards and he lost. So
that's just typical Philip Rivers. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to talk about the Green Bay Packers. They won 43-34. Look at Aaron Rodgers, I said this, he's playing with a chip on his shoulder, and rightly so. They drafted Jordan Love, who's not even, he's like fourth on the depth chart, and they only have three quarterbacks. He's fourth on the depth chart. They only have three quarterbacks.
Right.
Listen, Devontae Adams, I asked you this earlier today. Is he the best wide receiver in the NFL this year? He had 14 catches.
Well, after week one, I mean, it wasn't so much that even his numbers, how great they were, is that how dominant he was. Even when he was covered, he caught the ball like nobody was on him. It was, it was magic to watch because you know what? Him and Aaron Rodgers, I've been saying this all along, even in fantasy football, picking up a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers was so low. And I said, like you said, because you're the one who said it to me, is that Aaron Rodgers is playing with a chip on his shoulder. And, 13 wins last year. Not too shabby.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And you know what's amazing? Like, I say this all the time, and we'll talk to George about this. Dak Prescott, right? Dak Prescott, they did not sign a long-term deal. They franchised him. Kirk Cousins, 5 throwing attempts in the first half. They do not want to put the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands. They want to run Dalvin Cook and their backup 25, 30 times. They have no confidence in Kirk Cousins.
No, I totally agree with that, Dave. No, but when you have a running back like that, you need to establish a solid run before you do anything. But he doesn't feel like an over 20-yard quarterback to me. I think he's a 20 and under.
No, it's awful. He's awful. Listen, he was 6-29 against winning teams. That really doesn't count because both teams were 0-0. No team had a win, but he's terrible in big games. I say all the time, he came out a couple weeks ago and says, I'm not going to wear a mask because it's a survival of the fittest. And my thing is, when the teams are good, you play like you're sick. So maybe you should wear a mask because you're terrible. All right, let's move to the Eagles against the Washington football team. The Eagles were up 17-0. They get outscored 27-0. Carson Wentz got sacked 8 times. Listen, one thing I'm going to tell everyone here, it's the first week. I don't care what you did in fantasy football. I don't care what's going on it's the first week. So let's not overreact. What I will say is Dwayne Haskins at halftime of this game, okay, and I'll talk about this Sunday with Karita Parks, who's going to join us to talk about the Washington football team. Ron Rivera was getting an IV, Rico. He's undergoing, he's having cancer treatment. He got an IV at halftime. Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback, supposedly gave like this rah-rah speech where everyone was inspired. And I don't know if you believe in rah-rah speeches or not, but they came out and they played a great game. This defense is very good. If they could get some production on offense, they'll be a 7, 8, 9 win team. I'm shocked at how bad the Eagles looked in the second half, considering Doug Peterson is 4-0 in the first game of the season as a Philadelphia Eagle head coach.
Well, I don't know. Was it their defense or was it the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line?
A little bit of both.
It seemed a little. I mean, 8 sacks and a half is pretty embarrassing for any team. So, overreaction Monday.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
It's doom and gloom Tuesday.
Yeah. All right, Rico, you're up now with some other AFC games. What else you got?
Well, we got this barn burner of the Browns versus the Ravens. Talk about a game that was over after the first series. Lamar Jackson, literally, they walked down so easily that it was just, it was, I mean, I would click in on the game just hoping to see the Browns do something. And you know what? That's it. Like, look at the poor look on his face. He's just hugging him saying, I wish I was you.
Here's the thing, Rico. I took this picture from last year because if you remember last year, the Browns lost by 30 points to the Ravens. And so it doesn't matter if it was this year or last year. But here's what I'm going to say about the Browns. Okay, they need to figure out what their identity is, right? Everyone has an identity. Even bad teams with Rex Ryan had an identity. Hey, well, we're going to ground and pound. We're going to play defense. The problem with that is when you got down 14-0, you couldn't ground and pound. So your identity was limited. What is the Cleveland Browns' identity here? My thing is feed the ball to Chubb, get him running, and use the play action. Odell Beckham Jr., this is a huge game Thursday night against the Cincinnati Bengals, okay? Because Cleveland, if they lose that game, they're 0-2. Pittsburgh played much better than most people thought. The Ravens are an elite team. If they lose to the Bengals, it's going to be major, major problems in Cleveland. And look, I lived in Cleveland for a year. I loved it there. I've never felt more at home in a place. There were 2 places that when I went there, I was like, I should be living here. It was like almost an out-of-body experience. It was Cleveland and when I went to Charlotte, North Carolina. two places I absolutely love. But they have no identity. They didn't have an identity last year. They don't have an identity this year.
Well, again, their two wide receivers are the same type of wide receiver. Their cookie cutters are the same person. You put two of the same players, there's a missing to be a pure slot receiver. They're missing a lot of things that people don't realize. And Baker Mayfield, he just looks like a deer in headlights. I mean, me and Levi were talking about this earlier. He couldn't get off of how bad Baker played. And my question to him was, did you actually really watch the whole game? So, I just don't even know. I mean, I feel bad for the guy, but also I don't. Just
Rico, he thinks he is Lamar Jackson. He thinks he's Russell Wilson. He's not that athletic. He needs to stay in the pocket. He was a very good accuracy passer in Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma has the quarterback whisperer in Lincoln Riley, but he was pretty accurate in college. He was a very good college player. But he thinks he's an athlete, and he's not. He's not going to outrun linebackers. They have no identity. This team is in trouble.
Yeah, they're in big trouble. Even their defense isn't that terrible. I mean, against the Ravens, 38 points. That's what you got to expect every week. Is that if you need to score at least 29 points and 30 to beat the Ravens, purely because they're going to score that on you. And you know what? The Browns may have came into that game thinking that way, which is the right way to think. But you got to start off, with 3. 7.
Terrible game plan all around. Terrible performance.
Yeah, it was, again, new head coach, the whole thing. Who do you blame? Everybody's putting everything on Baker Mayfield, but the coach's scheme apparently didn't work against that defense.
All right, next.
Well, the second game of Monday night, which in my perfect world, there'd be 2 Monday night games, because I remember being in New Jersey, and the second game would end at like 1:30 in the morning, especially if it went into overtime. It was the Tennessee Titans against Denver last night, and this game, talk about the spread was 3. In this game, it ended up being 16 to 14, and the spread was 3. How does Vegas know how to do that spread? And just to
first of all, it was 16-14. The spread was 3, and let's just show how right Vegas is. The field goal kicker, Gronkowski, missed 3 field goals and an extra point.
The odds of him missing 3 field goals was 0.006% of him missing 3 field goals. He is a Hall of Fame kicker, and to see him miss that many was shocking.
I'm showing this. This is one of my favorite of all time because, I mean, and listen, God bless the Titans coaching staff. They went to him at the end. He kicks the game-winning field goal. All seems to be forgotten, but that was just an ugly game. All right, we're going to switch gears here, Rico. I'm going to go to the Seahawks and the Falcons. Listen, Russell Wilson over the past 3 years, we had Ariana Prasad join us on the Full Monty Sports Show on Sunday, and I told her that, look, Russell Wilson is the best quarterback in the league. Now, she wasn't ready to jump on that, but over the last 3 years, he has 107 touchdown passes in a conservative offense. No other quarterback has over 100 in the past 3 years. He was 31 of 35, 322 yards, 4 touchdown, passer rating of 143.1. Third highest completion percentage in the history of the NFL with someone who throws the ball for more than 30 times. We talked about this on the show Sunday. Let Russ cook was like the hashtag. And he let him cook all right. He cooked the appetizer, the salad, the dinner, the dessert, and then, anything else you want to think of. Talk about that. I mean, just amazing.
We took him a little early in our fantasy draft, and I remember saying to myself, he's got to come through. Like, I started talking, because secretly, that's your secret lover. You have Wentz, you had Mariota, but secretly underneath, you always talked about Wilson. You didn't want to say he was your favorite quarterback, but you always were like, there's this underlying thing there of like the crush on the neighbor type of thing that you're not allowed to talk about. But he's watching him play. I just love watching him play. Again, you get more invested when you have a guy, when you invest in a guy. So you know what I'm saying? So it's really nice to watch him play and just, they let him cook. And
I was very happy.
He's going to make a nice bid for MVP this year. I'm really convinced about it. But
I really believe that. I really do.
We're
talking with Rico Graziano here on the Full Monty Sports Show. Some good news. The week of the 28th, we will have Nuts and Bolts Sports merchandise. I'm actually wearing their T-shirt right now. I know people want to buy a lot of memorabilia from Nuts and Bolts Sports. Let me stand up a little bit so you can see the nuts and bolts sports shirt.
I like that. That's a nice color.
So week of the 28th, merchandise store launches. So that is good news for all of us. All right, Rico, you got one more game there?
Yeah, well, I figured it's the Bills versus the Jets. It was the Bills won 27-17.
Well, we'll leave that for Levi. Let me just go through a couple ones here and give us your thoughts before we get Levi and George Lopez on. Chicago Bears won 27-23. Mitchell Trubisky threw 3 touchdown passes. How about this? Trubisky has 4 straight games against the Lions where he throws 3 or more touchdowns. Now listen, Matt Patricia, 9-31. Listen to this stat. The Lions are now 1-15-1 when it's the last possession of a game, where they have a chance to win or chance to lose. 1-15-1. Matt Patricia is an absolute joke of a coach, and I have friends who are Lions fans, and I said to them after the game, I texted them, I said, why are you shocked? This is the Lions, what they do. They blow leads. They lose games they're supposed to win. Matt Patricia is 9-23-1. How does he have a job, Rico?
Because you want to know why I think he has a job is because if you posted up, if you Googled what does a Detroit Lion coach look like, it would be his picture. I feel like his persona matches the team, and they don't care at this point. Like, let's just let him stack up picks. Let's just give him a few years because people just for some reason like him, especially in Detroit. They just love him. And you know what? It's like when you have a fan favorite, it's tough to get rid of him, especially when you know the culture there is not a big winning culture. So,
all right, Rico, I'm going to
around because I like him too.
I'm going to hold the Tampa Bay game because I have a ton of questions for Levi regarding fantasy football. But we'll end with these 2 games. Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers wide receiver had 41 yards receiving. Their wide receivers are terrible. Now, I know they have some injuries, but when George Kittle goes down, what are you going to do, right? Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't terrible. He was 9 for 33, but he missed a lot of wide receivers. Our good friend Jared was texting me all game. But here's what I'm going to tell every fan watching this show regarding football and your team. Kyler Murray threw the ball 40 times. Okay? He ran for 91 yards. Arizona Cardinals are basically telling Kyler Murray what they're saying in Seattle. We're putting the ball in your hands. We're going to make you the best player on the field, and he's delivering. The Cardinals, listen to this, the Cardinals are 9-2 in their last 11 against the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, it's funny enough, I actually agree with you on something with the Kyle Murray thing. I think that they've tailored the offense around him, which he's stepped up because we've seen teams tailor offenses around quarterbacks who don't step up, and it just it just crumbles around them like Sam Darnold on the Jets. Last year they tried to, whenever he didn't have 7th grade mono, whatever. I mean, who gets mono?
The kissing disease.
Yeah, the kissing disease. I guess he was, who knows? But anyway, that he stepped up. And this game was I have Kittle and I picked him real early. So when he got hurt, I shut it off. And it's one of the very few games I did not check in on because I just didn't want to watch anymore.
My friend Andrea has Michael Thomas and George Kittle.
Oh,
I mean,
so that's it. No, that's it. She had a good season. It was 1 week.
That's it.
It was the City scenario on the Mets. That's
Rico,
it.
just want to end with this one, and we'll get to the rest of the games with Levi and George. The Steelers win 26-16. Big Ben threw for 3 touchdowns. Mike Tomlin is 16-2 on Monday night, and he's won his last 8 or 9 on Monday night. But here's the biggest story. This Steeler defense is pretty scary. They held Saquon Barkley in check. He was a non-factor. They put pressure on Daniel Jones, was running for his life. The Steelers, if they could score some points, could be an elite team.
That could be. I think with that defense, we've seen defenses carry teams right to the playoffs. And, Ben Roethlisberger had 3 more yards than Saquon Barkley did rushing. So that goes to tell you how strong their defense is. But Mike Tomlin also did say, he said, we did know who was getting the ball, and we put a lot of players up front. They shut the box down, which means that they pretty much focused on the runner. And he said, we left our defensive backs very vulnerable. to stop him. Now, against a team like Dallas, let's say, if they do that, it's not going to work out as well as it did last night because Daniel Jones, luckily enough, missed a few passes that could have really made this a different game. But the defense there looks great, and this is game one. Who knows what they can do?
Well, Rico, Ben Roethlisberger rushed for 9 yards. Shaquan Barkley rushed for 6.
I know.
I mean, what are we doing here?
You know what? And he got the ball a lot. It was as a Steeler fan, it was beautiful to watch. It was a great game to watch because Pittsburgh's gone to their roots of defense. Ben Roethlisberger's back. He's got a young cast of people, but James Conner looked slow, and then they said he hurt his foot on like the first 3 plays of the game, which is concerning. But Benny Snead came in and he did great. He came in and he got over 100 yards, which was good to look at. Devontae Johnson, his hands didn't look for the catches he made. They looked sloppy catches. You know when a guy catches the ball.
Yeah, listen. But I'll tell you what.
Body catching and.
Yeah, but you got to admit, Big Ben and Juju Smith-Schuster have great chemistry. But more important, Rico, look at this comment. That is pretty impressive. I mean, the fans are coming out. The fans are coming out in droves. So I appreciate that. When we come back, we're going to have Levi and George Lopez join us. You're listening to the full Monte Sports Show, sports and comedy. All right, guys. Hey, George. Hey, Levi. How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
George, starting right away.
That's for Rico. I tell you, Rico said that I got the right team, but I was off just a little bit by the score. I had it 24-20.
Yeah, listen, George, you did a tremendous job picking that. They did a great job. We're going to get to that. Let's bring on Levi right now. Levi, great job for the Bills. I didn't realize this. Josh Allen has rushed for 18 touchdowns. That is the most of any quarterback over the past few years. And got to be honest with you, 312 yards. Talk about his maturization, as a quarterback.
Well, he's a great runner. He always has been. He seems like our best running back as well as our best quarterback. But I still need to see him learn how to throw with consistency. It's still a concern. Teams are going to make him do it at some point.
Now, you bring up a great point here because you can't have him be – we've seen Russell Wilson do this. I think on Sunday it was the 18th time Russell Wilson has led his team in rushing. You can't have Josh Allen be your leading rusher every week. What are they going to do at the running back position?
Well, we drafted running back in the 3rd round so that he wouldn't have to do that, but apparently he just loves to do it. So I'm not sure what we're going to do.
Now, do you mind him? I mean, he's a big guy. Are you afraid that he may get hurt if he keeps running? He is a bigger guy. He's not a Kyler Murray. He's not a Russell Wilson. I mean, he's a strong, big dude.
I mean, yeah, it definitely concerns me. But at the same time, we saw Cam Newton win an MVP doing that. And he's doing it again this year. And, quarterbacks only have so long to play quarterback and do what you're good at.
All right, George. Go ahead, Rico.
With the
Rico, we didn't hear you.
I said, were you happy with the receivers, Levi?
I didn't watch the game. I was busy watching Red Zone because I'm a fan of Maniac. I don't know. Their fantasy stats weren't that good.
I asked that question earlier today. We were talking.
No, listen. He threw for over 312 yards. I think it's the first time since 2016 a Buffalo Bills quarterback has done that. He continues to run the ball. I think they're the class of that division. I think they carry that over. I don't think you're going to change the way he plays. And one thing I will say about the Buffalo Bills, they are so well coached. They're not going to beat themselves, so they're going to play to their strengths. Now let's transition to you, George, because I thought what McVay did in the opening drive was masterful. He took what the defense gave them, misdirections. He didn't let Goff stand in the pocket and really, let those rushers come on. It was a masterful game plan. Talk about what you liked about Monday night.
Well, what I liked about the game plan is, one, I saw a lot of the old West Coast offense in their game plan. A lot of short passes. They weren't asking Goff to chuck it downfield, get it to your skill players and let them create. We saw Robert Woods catching short passes, receiver screen, and he was turning them into 10, 15-yard gains. And the running game was solid enough to allow the play action to work. Goff is at his best when he's able to run play action. And his play action doesn't work unless the running game works.
I said this to you on Sunday. On Monday, on Sunday night. I've been saying this in the offseason. Brown's got to be the featured back.
Well, the idea was Akers was supposed to be the featured back on Sunday, but the offense was flowing with Malcolm Brown. McVay just went with it because Brown had a great game, but the plan was, get Akers more involved. He had 14 carries, but only 39 yards, and Brown ran for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns on 18 carries. So the offense, the running game with Brown was working a lot better.
George, can we see that mask one more time?
Oh, of course. Now, I'm not going to gloat, about Rico because Rico's still the man when it comes to making picks, but I had to give him a little bit of a hard time. Just had him.
Whoa. The only reason I had LA, ask Levi, I had LA written down that I was going to pick LA. I would have been 3-0 instead of 2-1. But because Monte was so confident in the Rams, it made me second guess my bet. And
Rico,
I said,
we know it has to do with me costing some basketball picks.
Well, me and George were best friends. He was giving me basketball picks, and then all of a sudden he was like 7-1, and then all of a sudden the wheels started shaking.
Yeah, I turned into William H. Macy, as that bad luck guy with Alec Baldwin at the casino.
Wow, great reference. Great reference. All right, Levi, let's get back to the Bills here real quick. Dominated the Jets. Jets may be the worst team in the league, but the Jets only had 202 passing yards, 52 rushing yards. Before I came on today, I see that Le'Veon Bell has a hamstring pull. Funny, he never had a hamstring pull, with the Steelers, but the Jets stink. So is this a top 7 defense?
I think they're definitely a top 7 defense. And the Jets, I don't know what's going on with the Jets. I saw a stat that Adam Gase has won 40 games as a coach, and he's lost 28 games by double digits. He has got to go.
Only 28.
I'm not sure how good the Bills are, but the Jets definitely are pretty bad.
Well, the only person who hates him more than you is Monte.
I'm preaching to the choir.
Listen, it's funny because, for prepping for this show, one of the reasons that make Bill Belichick so good, one of the reasons that makes coaches so good is they beat up on the bad teams, right? The Steelers under Mike Tomlin are 33-6-1 against the Browns and the Bengals, but they're 10-18 against the Ravens and the Patriots. So one of the things that good coaches do is they beat up on bad teams. Go ahead, Rico.
Well, no. I was just about to say that stat is the Patriots just beating us every time. When there's a team who has your number, there's nothing you can do about it. The Patriots, that's a loaded stat. I didn't want to go into it, but it's a loaded stat about them losing to 2 particular teams.
I'm just saying, listen, they're 33-6-1 against the Browns and Bengals, 10-18 against the Ravens and Patriots. Now, Levi, you're the fantasy football guy with Rico. Is there anyone on the Washington football team, or is there anyone on the Bills that you would take as your starting quarterback, wide receiver, or number 1 running back throughout?
Or the Raiders?
The Raiders. The Raiders have talent.
All right. So as far as the Raiders, we'll start with the Raiders just because Josh Jacobs looks like he's
unbelievable.
He's unbelievable. And not just him, it's that line. Their offensive line is so good, better than I expected. As far as Washington, Terry McLaurin is really good if Haskins can get it together.
But he's not a number 1, right?
I mean, I'm not saying he's the number 1, but he could end up the year as a top wide receiver. As far as running backs, no, not on either of those teams.
And what about your team? Would you take Allen as your number 1, Stephon Diggs number 1? You're not taking a running back as number 1. Could you win a fantasy football league with Josh Allen as your fantasy football quarterback?
Definitely. With the way that he runs, definitely. I mean, he scores touchdowns. We don't have him at all. I wish we did, but yeah, he could definitely. I mean, we had him last year. He was going a little bit too high for me this year, and we took Russell Wilson instead. Let Russ cook.
Let Russ cook. Okay, George, a lot of talk about the Rams' offensive line. Pro Football Focus had them ranked 25th. How do you think they did against a pretty good defensive front against in Dallas? But you look at this division, they're going to have to go up against, San Francisco twice, who has probably the best front in the league. How do you like this offensive line? Is there room for a lot of improvement? Do they have a higher ceiling? Or this is what you're going to expect, misdirection, and just try to fool people?
Well, I really like the offensive line. Remember 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, they were one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. But what was one of the reasons? They were healthy that whole year. Last year, we had a lot of injuries on the offensive line. And, yeah, Whitworth had a down year. This year, well, again, week 1, they were healthy. And you saw the difference. And they were more physical against Dallas. Collinsworth made a comment during the game last year. You saw the offensive line go more side to side. Sunday night, they were going up and down. They were going forward.
Well, that goes to my point about Brown. Brown's a punishing runner. He rushes with an attitude. Yeah. So I make him the number one running back.
But I agree. I would probably start Malcolm Brown, but it's going to be running back by committee because all 3 running backs give you something different. Henderson could be more of that scat back who can catch out of the backfield, though Malcolm Brown can catch out of the backfield. But he's going to be the bruiser with some speed, and I think eventually you're going to see a little bit of Akers doing the same thing. But if the offensive line stays healthy, they're going to be tough.
All right, Levi, switching back to a little bit of fantasy football here and talking about last night's game. I have Noah Fant and I have Jerry Jeudy. I think those are 2 stars on the rise. Jerry Jeudy dropped a couple of balls, but he is super fast. He runs great routes. Noah Fant had 5 catches for 81 yards. How do you like those guys, and where do you see them with fantasy football this year?
I love them both, but one thing to consider is that Sutton didn't play, and he's
the number one guy.
Favorite. Yeah, he's their number one guy for sure. So, I mean, that could actually be good for them or it could be bad for them. I think it remains to be seen.
Now, the upside of Noah Fant, could he be a top 5 tight end this year?
Yeah, definitely. I wish that we had him because he was going super late, and he could be one of those like George Kittle type of league winners. I was watching last night, and I was like,
No, he looks real good, and I think Denver will get better as the season goes on.
Every time he caught a ball, I was like, we could have. We can't get him. I really wanted him to start doing really bad because I knew you were feeling the same way, Levi. We just couldn't. It was just, it's like to watch somebody do good and you're so upset because you don't have them. Not that he was beating us in any way. It just hurt because, in our draft room, he came up. He popped up during the draft. You saw the pictures we have of our draft.
Rico, listen to me. Talking about players you didn't draft is like talking about ex-girlfriends. No one cares. Don't pay any attention to it. Love the one you're with.
I could dream, Monte. I could dream.
All right, George. Listen, Jared Goff was very productive. I think him and McVay have a very good relationship. Is he a top 10 quarterback? I'm not talking about fantasy numbers. I'm saying, is he a top 10 quarterback, or are there people on the fringe that you say, no, he's not a top 10 quarterback in the NFL?
I wouldn't put him top 10, not yet. No. I think he has the potential to become a top 10 quarterback, but I wouldn't put him there yet. I do think he's on the fringe of it. There's still room for improvement, and I think we're going to see it this year because one of the things that the players are talking about in camp is he has an attitude that they haven't seen yet. So almost like a chip on his shoulder. So I think you're going to see a little bit more assertive Jared Goff this year. And if he plays that way, then, yeah, I definitely think he could become a top 10 quarterback.
Levi, so it's going to be pretty obvious that Tua is going to start, not this week, not the following, but probably by week 4 in Miami. So my question to you is, looking right now on the outside looking in, second half of the year, would you say someone like a Drew Lock, a Tua, someone like that to pick up on fantasy football. I have Carson Wentz, and I won 3 out of the 4 of my fantasy football. But Carson Wentz, their offensive line is so bad. Who's like a sleeper, whether it's a quarterback, a wide receiver, running back, that someone may be able to pick up right now?
Well, I'll give you 2 quarterbacks. I think Joe Burrow proved it to me. He definitely has the goods. He also runs, which I like in a quarterback. And I would say the same thing about Gardner Minshew. He surprised me. I did not think they would the Colts at all, and I did not think that he would do well. And he keeps proving me wrong. And he also runs, so that's a very valuable thing in fantasy. And both of those guys are available in a lot of leagues.
You know, it's amazing because Gardner Minshew became the first quarterback to complete 95% of his passes and have 3 touchdown passes in the history of the NFL. Yes, we posted this earlier. He looks like White Goodman from the movie Dodgeball, but he got it done. And I was very critical of Joe Burrow, and one of the things that I really thought he was going to struggle was because I didn't think Cincinnati had a lot of skill position players. He had a great run on a touchdown. Now, if Derwin James was there for the Chargers, he probably hits him. He doesn't make that play. But the Chargers have a very good pass rush. They have very good cornerbacks, and they should have won that game. You know, the guy misses a field goal center. Joe Burrow, and I'm going to say this, and we'll go to George, we'll go to Levi, then we'll go to Rico. Joe Burrow, by the end of the year, could be the second best quarterback in this division. George, what do you say?
In the AFC North?
I don't know if Big Ben's going to stay healthy, and Baker Mayfield.
You know, if Big Ben stays healthy and plays the way he did the second half of yesterday, then no, he won't surpass Big Ben. But he's definitely going to be better than what's that idiot's name in Cleveland?
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. I don't want to say his name. He's definitely going to be better than him. But I don't know if he's not this year. I don't think he's going to surpass Big Ben if Ben stays healthy.
Rico, what do you think?
Not going to surpass Lamar Jackson.
We don't know about Ben's health, so
yeah, we don't know about Ben's health. But if it plays out the way we see it, then he'll be the number 3 quarterback in that division. But it's going to be. I think he's going to be close to Big Ben. Sorry to say that, Rico, but I think
I agree. I think he's.
I have a different outlook on it. I think that if I'm the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals and I'm the coach of the Cincinnati Bengals and my superstar is running, he's still a boy amongst men. You know, he hasn't been – he got hit, but he hasn't been hit. And I think I would try to – he needs to stay back and throw because he's got a great arm and he doesn't need to lean on his running just yet. They're not in a position.
The long run that he had, that was a design quarterback draw call, wasn't it?
Yeah, the center blocked the lineman and the linebacker.
And he set up that block beautifully.
Yes. Levi, Rico, I agree with what you're saying, but we talked about Josh Allen. He runs. He's fine. Levi, Kyler Murray, I have him as one of my quarterbacks. Please tell me that this guy is a legitimate MVP candidate.
Oh, absolutely. How could you say he's not? I mean, he had 100 yards, and that's one of the best defenses in the league. Back to the Burrow question, I think as far as fantasy is concerned, Burrow could definitely beat Big Ben, mainly because Cincinnati's defense is so bad that they're going to have to throw. Big Ben is going to run a lot more than the Cincinnati Bengals.
Rico, are you concerned about Connor? I mean, he missed last year with an injury. 5 plays in, he's hurt again. Are you concerned about him?
Well, I'm glad that we had, Mike Tomlin, coach of the Steelers, his big thing is next man up. He's been saying that forever, and I know that's a saying in the league is that because it's the NFL, and especially this year what's going on, next man up. And, it was he's gotten hurt every year of his career. We knew it was going to happen. Nobody knew it was going to happen on the 3rd play. But prior to that 3rd or 4th play, he looked slow, and it didn't look like Pittsburgh's offensive line could be a pounder, him running.
Yeah, but the backup Samuel had a great game.
Yes, Snead had a great game, and they both did, and they both showed that they could be, hit the outside quick, which teams weren't prepared for. We'll see how they look next time they get on the field.
Listen, is that defense, Levi? Is that defense a top 5 fantasy football defense?
The Steelers. Yeah, I think they're the best. Yeah, they're unbelievable. No, I take it back. I'm sorry, Rico. I take it back. Baltimore's better.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. We can't.
Your corners are better for sure.
If you had the 2nd or 7th pick in the fantasy draft, you're crying. Your running back got 6 yards, and you lost your wide receiver for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, no, I said Snell. That's what I meant. Samuel did play for a little bit, but yeah.
Samuels is the backup.
Yeah. Okay, George. Listen, defensively, the Rams had 3 sacks. I look at this team like I look at a lot of defenses. You don't have to be elite. You just have to be good at 2 things if you want to win playoff games. The Chiefs did this last year. You got to get to the quarterback, and you got to have a lockdown corner. Is Jalen Ramsey still the best defensive back in the league? And we know Sam Donald is the best defensive lineman in the league.
Well, I think Aaron Donald is probably the best football player in the league. No disrespect to Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes. But
why am I saying Sam Darnold? See, I can't get rid of the Jets. I have this guy haunting me, 24/7. It's just, I mean, I don't know if you guys heard the beginning of the show, Levi and George. And George, we'll get back to your answer. My brother Pete, we have 3 things set up: the computer, the TV, and his tablet. My brother Pete watched 5 minutes of the Jet game, and he goes, "I'm done. I'm done." And I said to him, "Why did it take you that long?" Like, they are so bad. So yes. So go back to your point, George. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Jalen Ramsey is the best cornerback in the league. He's definitely top 5. I think he's worth the money. But for me to say that, that's going to be a hard answer, and that kind of answer I got to think with my head. So he's definitely top 5. The defense, they got better in the second half. I do have some concerns. It's a new defensive coordinator. A lot of missed tackles, which you expect from week 1. But the one that really bothered me was linebacker Micah Kaiser, 7 missed tackles. It was sloppy, but they did start getting better in the second half. I still can't understand why McCarthy went for it on 4th and 3 when he could have just easily kicked a chip shot field goal to tie it. But thank you. And Jordan Fuller, he a 6th-round pick takes a starting job from Taylor Rapp, who was out with injury. Fuller earned that starting job, and I think he's playing better than a 6th-round pick. He may be the steal of the draft for the Rams this year.
Okay, here's what I'm going to say. McVay's an offensive coach, right? A very good offensive coach. What does it say on 4th and 1 at the 48, 49-yard line? You get a first down there, the game's over. He punts it away. Did he not believe in Dak Prescott, or is it such a great sign that he believed that his defense would come up big, George?
For Dallas to punt?
No. The Rams punted away, and they gave the ball back to Dallas. So is he saying he has confidence in his defense?
Yes, because the defense played a lot better in the second half, and he's telling Prescott, "You want to beat me? You're going to have to go down the length of the field." And he believed in the defense enough, like, "I'm telling you guys, you're going to stop them. I have that much faith in you." He sent a message without having to say it, and that's going to get the defense fired up. Now, I'm going to say this. That pass interference call on Gallup, Ramsey belongs in Hollywood because he sold it.
No,
that was
he did sell it.
Yeah, he finished in the arm, but that late in the game, that flag should not have been thrown. And I'm a Ram fan. I'll take it, but at that point in the game, I don't think that flag should have been thrown.
Look,
he gave a speech after that performance.
Yeah, but Ramsey definitely sold it. He fits the Hollywood lifestyle.
Yeah, listen, when McVay punted, I was like, he believes in his defense. And Dak Prescott, for everything you want to say about him, his passer rating was 56% in the second half, and they only scored 3 points in the second half. So McVay was saying, we got this defense.
Yeah, the defense played great in the second half. And then, like I said, McCarthy and Kellen Moore, they were more conservative than I expected. I thought everyone said, well, McCarthy took that whole year off last year analyzing games. He's going to change. And I'm like, I saw the same McCarthy. I didn't see anything different. And I agree. I think it was Jurico who told me that they were going to keep more Kellen Moore's offense, into it. So, to keep the continuity with Prescott. But I didn't really see anything. The one thing I really liked is we pretty much shut down Zeke. He really wasn't a factor.
He had some good sparks, but again,
moments, but he really wasn't a factor. The defense for the Rams got better as the game went.
They only gave up 3
that was what I was hoping to see.
No, they only gave up 3 points in the second half. Speaking about, again, I'm sorry, and I always do this every first show, since I always focus on the Jets on my first football show. I mean, Jamal Adams for the Seahawks had 12 tackles, 1 sack, probably one of the defensive players of the week. And I'm looking at the Seattle defense flying. Listen, they gave up points to Atlanta, whatever. But, I mean, Jamal Adams is a top-tier defensive player, and the Jets got really nothing for him. It's a disgrace. He's 25, 26 years old. Levi, who is going to be your best defense for fantasy football this year?
Just for the record, you were the one bringing up. Don't talk about ex-girlfriends. So Jamal Adams
I don't know who's winning the Jets, Monte. You or your brother?
No, it's all me. It's all me. So, Levi, who do you think is going to have the best defense this year? You said the Ravens, fantasy football-wise.
It's a tough call. I would say Ravens, Steelers, Niners. Those are the big ones.
Isn't it nice that they're both in the same division? They play each other twice this year. I think that's great.
I must add, George, that the Rams defense really surprised me. I did not think they'd be good at all. I thought that would be a shootout. And my takeaway from that game was that the Rams defense was much better than we anticipated.
Yeah, and I've said it because Staley's a new defensive coordinator. I know nothing about him. All I knew is he was staying in the 34 defense. So I had questions, and I still have questions at the linebacker spot. I'm still not over Corey Littleton going to the Raiders. So there was some question marks there. I wasn't so concerned about the secondary and the defensive line. It's the linebackers, and I still have some questions about it. They're going to get better, but yeah, they did a lot better than I expected.
All right, Levi, so let's get back to some fantasy football questions here. Over, under. For Lamar Jackson is now 20-3 as the Ravens starting quarterback. Over, under 37 total touchdowns rushing, passing for Lamar Jackson.
That's a tough one. I'll take the over.
You're taking the over.
You're taking the over. Good. I like that.
I love him.
Rico, what are you taking
Sensei
there?
Rico, I gotta agree with Rico.
Who do you think, George? I got under. He's got over.
I have to agree with Levi. He said total touchdowns. I can see Lamar rushing for at least 10, throwing for at least 30. I would go the over for Lamar Jackson.
Everyone he rushes is one he's not throwing.
True.
So you're saying under, Rico. You're saying under.
I'm saying under in total. To throw 37, that's just a lot of plays to be a part of for 16 games, 17 games.
Okay, another question here.
Average,
Patrick Mahomes, over 36 touchdowns combined. Levi, you're first.
I'll say the over.
I'm going to take the over. And just so you know, Lamar Jackson had 36 touchdowns last year. So 39 is definitely within the realm of possibility. And I'll take the over for Mahomes as well. I think he could get close to 50.
Well, just remember, my friend Levi, my brother, told me that sometimes people are at their ceiling. So is it possible that Lamar Jackson had his 36 touchdown ceiling last year? It's very possible.
It's possible, but we already saw week 1, and he looked great. They look great, and they got Dobbins now. They look even better than last year.
I think he's going to be better this year than he was last year.
The one thing that really shocked me is I thought that the Browns' defense would be a little bit better. I mean, they got just manhandled. They got pushed around. But the thing is, the Steelers' defense is going to be pretty good, too. So, with Jackson, we saw how you stop him in the playoffs, or we thought how you stopped him in the playoffs, but then he throws 3 touchdown passes. So, maybe he won't rely on his legs so much. We have about 5 minutes left.
Monte, real quick, if you want to slow down Jackson, look at the last 2 games he did against Kansas City. They've contained him in the 2 games against when he's played against them. I will look at those tapes and look how they defend him.
George, one of the things that I say is what I loved about Jackson is he's evolved. After his first year, he put on muscle. He gained weight. He's like, I'm too skinny. Now he says, I worked all season. I'm becoming a better passer. And we know this. Great coaches put their quarterback, we talked about this early on, and then I talked about with this Levi. They're putting Kyler Murray in a great situation. They're putting Lamar Jackson in a great situation. Buffalo is putting Josh Allen in where they could succeed. And you could say the same thing about McVay and Jared Goff.
Well, with McVay and Goff, the Rams will go. Goff will go as far as the running game will take them. If there's no running game, then you're going to see what we saw last season.
True.
Okay, George, talk about next week's matchup with the Rams. They play the Eagles. Eagles coming off a bad loss. How do you see this game panning out?
Yep.
George, you there? George? I think we lost George. All right, Levi, we'll go to you, and then we'll get back to George. Listen,
Well, when I looked at the spread today, it's pretty much a toss-up game. I saw the Rams were half point favorite. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, we're going to have George come back into the studio. Levi, I'll start with you real quick. Listen, the Dolphins, very well coached team. I think the Dolphins, but the Bills are coming off some momentum here. Break down this game. Is this just a simple, easy win, show up and we win, or you think it'll be a little bit more difficult?
It should be an easy win. I mean, Miami's in transition. They're not a very good team. The spread is 6 right now. I'm taking the Bills, but I always take the Bills.
Is that like Rico, who always takes the Steelers, as I put the Steelers background up there?
That we have to. Yep. We have to take our team.
It's called being a fan, Monty. It's called being a fan.
Yeah, but you got. Let me set this up here. You guys are bettors. You do fantasy football, so you don't think with your heart, you think with your head.
That's true. That's true. I that's why I try not to get Bills players, and I try not to bet on the Bills.
Same here.
But you think the Bills run away with this and they go 2-0? Are they the class of the division, or do you still have a little bit fear of the Patriots?
I'm always fearful of the Patriots, but I mean, we've seen Cam do this before. Everybody knows how to stop it. It's just a matter of time before it's stopped.
Levi, you're getting compliments once again with your background.
Thank you very much.
All right, Levi.
Look, he reads books. He's got to be smart.
And of course, George doesn't have any books. Enrico has some sort of wildlife zoo picture.
I got something better than books, Monte. I got something better than books. This is all I need.
All right, Levi. It's only one game, but before we let you go, give us your prediction on the Bills record-wise this year. How high is this ceiling, is it a successful year if they make the playoffs and move towards next year? Or do you have bigger aspirations for this team?
I mean, every team's window is short, so obviously I would like to make a run, but I think realistically 10-6 and a playoff win would be a successful season.
Their defense is good enough to win a playoff game, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, but Allen is good enough to lose it.
No doubt. No doubt.
Wait, you guys had him last year in your fantasy football, correct?
I love him, but I just saw him last year in the playoffs. He makes boneheaded decisions under pressure sometimes. So I need to see him do it under the bright lights.
All right, Levi, we love having you on. We'll get you on in a couple weeks on a Sunday or on a Tuesday to come back and talk Bills and fantasy football. Tremendous job by you as always. Thanks so much for taking the time out.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
All right, there you go. That was Levi. Does a tremendous job. People love him. Jordan, I put the little Rams stadium. It's a beautiful stadium, right?
Oh, it's tremendous. I can't wait to be able to go to a game there. I'm actually hoping if they allow fans this year, I'm taking my son Ramon when they play the Jets.
Wow, that's an easy win. Rico hated the old stadium, right, Rico?
Oh, hated it. It couldn't. It made me hate the Rams. And I didn't mind the Rams till I went to that stadium, and I went there once and left before halftime.
He says it was so hot. There's no way around it. You couldn't do anything because no matter where you went, the sun was on you.
Yeah, we've had issues going to SC games at the Coliseum early on in the year. We're there all day, and it's 100-degree weather, and yeah, we're paying for it.
There's not a stitch of shade. There's not a stitch of shade in that stadium. Not one. There's not a seat. Doesn't matter how much money you have. There's not a seat that has shade.
But you know what? This stadium now rivals the stadium in Dallas. It is beautiful.
I think it's actually better than the stadium in Dallas.
George,
I think it's a tremendous stadium in Dallas. It's state of the art, but I think this one's just a little bit better.
I think what they're doing is they're going to start allowing about 10,000 fans per stadium. But guys, I just read an article, and be careful because they say that over the last month, 70% of the people who've come down with coronavirus have eaten in restaurants. because restaurants, you take off your mask, waiters, people are talking, people are walking by. So just be careful with that. George, end the show with this. We all made fun of you. Last year when you said the Rams would win
I
12
didn't
games.
make fun of you. I just want to make that clear before he moves on. But go ahead.
I did something that I never do on Sunday's show. I told Rico that I was a little bit too hard on the Rams. I had them going 8-8 in my nuts and bolts article. Where does this team go? Can they win 10 games? Are they a playoff team? George?
We keep losing him.
We keep losing.
Yes, I think they can be a playoff team, but again, health is going to be an issue. If they stay healthy, then yes. Yeah, I'm here.
Give us your record. What is your record for this team?
I'm here. Can you see me?
Yeah, what's your record for this team real quick?
Hello?
Okay, George, you're just going to have to text us the record in the chat room because we keep losing you. So
I
that's
was
it.
like,
Listen,
you know what? 5 strikes and you're out. You're out.
I
We'll
love
give you
George.
this,
He's
George.
great. I think
He's
George is going to
great.
say that. Listen, Rico, can they go 11-5, the Rams?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't see 11-5, but I see them making it possibly a high possibility of getting that 7th playoff spot.
All right, Rico, I want to thank you so much for joining this. You obviously come on every Sunday and give us your handicap picks. We're going to end this segment with you with this. Give us your record-wise for every team in the AFC North right now, because I got to be honest with you. If the Browns lose Thursday night, all hell's going to break loose in Cleveland. And Joe Burrow's a lot better than I thought. He's a winner. He's going to produce for this team. But give us your record for the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals, and, of course, your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, I think we'll go from top to bottom. The Ravens, I think, are going to go 13-3. I think Pittsburgh goes 10-6. I think the Browns are going to go 8-8, and then I think Cincinnati will maybe
5-11.
5-11, somewhere in that area.
Okay, George is saying 10-6 or 11-5 for his Rams. Great job. I want to thank those guys. I want to thank you, Rico, and we'll see you on Sunday. I'm just going to close out the show as we kick Rico out. And Rico, by the way, Rico, can you real quick before we go? Can you talk about those 2 things on the wall there? What are they?
Well, it's Sunday. It's a Tuesday afternoon here, late afternoon, night, and so I had to go in my kid's room. It was the only place I can go. See, look. I teach my kid about animals, good things, It's not just football in here.
All right, Rico. We'll end with that. We'll see you on Sunday. Thank you so much, Rico. All right, so I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Again, we're going to do this every Tuesday night. Just basically come in and talk about the NFL, what went on during the week. We'll have guests come on like we did with George Lopez and Levi. Did a tremendous job. But we're going to close the show with this. Okay, so I do this every first show. I talk about New York sports, and then I don't talk about them for the rest of the year because they suck. I joked around about Stewie at the start of the show where he goes to the Mets opening day and they hit a home run, and they say, "Oh, first pitch, home run, season's over." New York is a terrible place to be if you're a sports fan right now. It is terrible. The Jets and Giants are not going to win a combined 12 games. Okay, the Mets might be one of the few teams that don't make the playoffs, where almost everyone is making the playoffs in baseball. The Knicks are going to be so bad for the next 5 years, it's pathetic. So if you live in New York right now, if you're a Jet fan, if you're a Giant fan, the only team that is worth their weight in salt, the Yankees were supposed to be the best team. They're struggling. They're in 3rd place, is the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills. So if you're a New York fan, root for the Bills, because that is the only team that has a chance to do anything. We hear all the time in sports that you have to be in a big market. You have to be in a big market. The New York market is a disaster right now. It's a disaster. The Knicks, the Mets, the Jets, and the Giants are all going to be terrible. Terrible. And that is how we close Taco Tuesday on the full Monte Sports Show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And in the immortal words of Llewellyn Moss, I shall return, Carla Jean.